Hi, welcome to this fresh teaching from Foundation Church Belfast. My name is David Varney. I'm a pastor of Foundation Church, and in this video I want to help you to turn your troubles into triumph. There are so many troubles going on at the moment in the world, and no doubt in your own circumstance as well. And so we're going to lean on Psalm chapter 3 or Psalm 3 from the Bible. We're going to read that together. And then we're going to allow it to show us how to turn our troubles into triumph. First of all, let me read to you from Psalm 3. You can see the link to that either in your video, if you're watching on YouTube, or below in the notes if you're on Facebook or on our podcast. So here is Psalm 3. A psalm of David when he fled from Absalom his son. O Lord, how many are my foes? Many are rising up against me. Many are saying of my soul, there is no salvation for him in God. But you, O Lord, are a shield about me, my glory and the lifter of my head. I cried aloud to the Lord, and he answered me from his holy hill. I lay down and slept. I woke again, for the Lord sustained me. I will not be afraid of many thousands of people who have set themselves against me all around. Arise, O Lord, save me, O my God. For you strike all my enemies on the cheek. You break the teeth of the wicked. Salvation belongs to the Lord. Your blessing be on your people. How to turn your troubles into triumph. Well, if that's you and you have many troubles, and let's face it, who doesn't in this current climate that we're in, then first of all, the psalm shows us that we should present our problems to God. Present, number one. And when we do this, what we're hoping to do is to use our troubles in a way that is not destructive, but constructive, that builds us. And so Psalm 3 gives us a way to turn our troubles into triumph, to actually do this, to go through the process that we're going to look at today and do this. And first of all, we present the issues before God. The background in this psalm, it's unusual actually because we're given a bit of context at the beginning of the psalm. Most psalms, we don't know the context of what's going on, but here it tells us that this is a psalm of David when he fled from his son Absalom. David was the great king of Israel, the golden boy. It said he was the man after God's own heart. And he established a wonderful kingdom. He was a great leader. But one of his sons ended up leading a revolt against his dad, David. And that son's name was Absalom. And so after many months or years of this sort of conspiracy against David building up, David the king and a small but loyal band of followers left the throne, left Jerusalem to go and seek refuge out in the wilderness from his own son Absalom, who had gathered a small militia to, take out the king and install himself as Israel's new king. And you can read the backstory to this in 2 Samuel chapter 15. It says that David and his little band of friends left Jerusalem. And it says that they went into the wilderness and crossed the Kidron Valley just outside of Jerusalem. And David, it says, 2 Samuel 15, ascended the Mount of Olives, weeping. It said he was weeping. He was crying out to God. Because for David, many of his old-time friends became his enemies. His own son became a rebel. His own people, the people of Israel, progressively rejected David's leadership, his kingship, because of the manipulation of Absalom. And so we see in verse 1 of this Psalm 3, David has trouble from pretty much every angle that you can think of. Oh Lord, he says, how many are my foes? Enemies everywhere. Many are rising up against me. There's a physical threat against his life. This group of militia are after David and his men. But not only the physical threat, there's a spiritual threat as well. Many are saying of my soul, there is no salvation for him in God. They're trying to add insult to injury, if you like. They're trying to attack him. They not just want him dead physically, but they want him damned in the eyes of God as well. So both his body and his soul are under immense pressure and trouble. And so what do we see David doing in Psalm chapter 3 with that in mind? He presents his troubles to God. And so that's what we get in Psalm 3. It's a pattern, it's a prayer. It was adopted into the worship songbook of Israel to become a pattern or a prayer for all of God's people who face similar issues. And so we'll read through Psalm 3 and we'll figure it out together. But it's something for us to do, actually. It's something for us to take on board and start doing ourselves today as we seek to process our troubles and our hardships. So do it. The first thing we do is present our troubles before God, just like David does here. Don't bury your troubles by not mentioning them to God. Don't try and cope with them on your own or find other ways to deal with them. Don't even think that God is somehow disinterested or tired of you and listening to you and your complaints, or he's got better things to do or more holy people to look after. That's not God. That's not our God. Instead, David encourages us. Speak it out. Speak out your troubles. Make a list if you want to. One of David's later great grandsons, another king by the name of Hezekiah, he literally brings a piece of paper, a scroll, with all of the troubles on it, and he presents it before God. He opens it up before God and he says, God, look at this, read this, see how bad things are. I present this to you. Whatever it is for you, pour it all out before God. You might find it helpful to actually take a pen to paper and write a list, bullet points, spider diagram, whatever way it is, for you to document your troubles and bring them before God. And that way you'll know you've left nothing out at all. But just so you know, it doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be well-formed prayers and beautiful English and beautiful prose. You might want to write it out, you might not. You might just want to cry it out from your heart. Either way, present your troubles to God. I find it helps to find a place of solitude, either when there's no one else around, or maybe you need to hop in the car and drive someplace where there's no one around, that you can just be free, just talk to God on your own. Maybe it's the time when everybody else in the house is asleep. Maybe you need to lock yourself in your room for some time, just where you can speak to God and know that no one else except him is listening. Whatever way it is, David climbed up the top of a mountain to be with God, to cry out. So what sort of things might you say as you present your troubles to God? You might say something like this, and this is just an example, really. You might say, God, I have so many challenges on my plate just now. I am so stressed. There is so much going on in my life. I just can't cope. You might say something like, God, everything is going wrong just now. The exams are off. I'm struggling with my health. I don't know if I'm going to pull through this or not. God, I'm isolating and I feel completely alone. I feel rubbish. God, my fears are increasing and I don't know what I can do about that. God, my work is manic. I just can't cope. God, I feel utterly depressed. I am so low. God, I can't sleep. God, I'm so anxious. I can't find peace. God, I have no money. I can't pay my bills. First of all, to turn your troubles into triumph, present your troubles to God.